people generally resist change until the pain of making a switch outweighs the pain of their current situation. And I know that I have been there so many times because, it's like, why would I want to find a new job that's so much effort and so much work? Meanwhile, people are spending 20 years in a job that they absolutely hate. And that is not just affecting them, that's affecting their relationship, that's affecting the time that they have with their kids. I mean, it's affecting everything. There's a rippling effect to every single decision that you make, and people are constantly settling for just okay because it's easier to just be okay than to go through all of the hurdles to feel great.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm very happy, very privileged to have Mr. Dalton Ahern on my show. And anyway, him and his significant other, they've traveled and they do their own podcast, and they're over in Thailand right now. And we're going to talk to Dalton today, and we're going to learn about him, what they do, and hopefully inspire some of you out there. So, Dalton, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I just have to say that you absolutely nailed the name. Dalton Ahern. It's funny. In America, a lot of people will pronounce it Dalton Ahern, and I'm like, no. You got to put the flex on it. You got to put the Irish heritage to it. Ahern. So I appreciate that. Man, where do I even begin, man? Yeah, my lady and I are in Thailand right now. In fact, it's 1:30 a.m. And that's not as big of a deal as it seems because we do work on American time. So we're usually going to bed around 4 a.m. these days, which is wild. It's my first time doing the nocturnal thing. But my God, this is a journey. Like, this is a wild ride. And we can totally build to that. But right now, yeah, my lady and I have been in Thailand for about 4 months. And we both pretty much went all in. We quit our jobs. We moved here for the purpose of working on our podcast, expanding the community, and really just going for the digital nomad lifestyle. And there's so many reasons as to why we did that. But yeah, we're 4 months in and we're absolutely just loving it. And we keep telling our parents that it's going to be so hard to come back if we come back. But that's apparently not an option. So
Gotcha. Hey, man, if you can live the life, man, do it.
I'm like, why do we have to come back? Why can't you just come here? Right. It's like, why is this a one-way street, man? So we're working on them right now.
So what's it like living over there, though? I mean, isn't it quite a bit of a culture shock?
It is. It is a bit of a culture shock. And things are definitely a bit different. But that was really the point, because I remember when I was about 20 years old, and I'm 28 now, but I grew up in Connecticut, and I grew up in a really, really small town in Connecticut. It's called Old Saybrook. It's like 10,000 people. It's right on the beach. And so just to really highlight how small it was, my graduating class was about 120 kids. And so I was like, all right, when I graduated high school, I decided I wanted to be an actor in New York City, and I moved there. And it was wild because even though it was only a 2-hour drive away from Connecticut, the city is not the same as Old Saybrook, right? Like, it blew me away, the amount of people, the variety of people, the energy, the pace, like everything was just overwhelming. But at that time, I fell in love with it. And I think what really did it for me was that I felt like I was in an alien world. Yeah. I was so completely unaccustomed to everything that was going on around me. And I was scared shitless. And I even remember what scared me the most was the New York City subway. So much so that I just avoided it. I wouldn't go on it. And I would literally walk miles instead of taking the subway, until finally I just mustered up the courage and I finally did it. And I learned it, and I screwed up so many times. And I was that guy that was walking up to people that I thought were locals, and I'd be like, how do you get from here to here? And it was super embarrassing and super shitty, but I finally figured it out. And then after like a year, I was that guy who people would walk up to and go, how do you get from point A to point B? And I'd be able to tell them. And I always remembered that experience because that was the first time that I really felt like I established some sort of foundational structure for my adult identity. And I thought about that for a while, and I was like, I think that came from the hardship of moving to what I called an alien world. And as I continued to grow up and New York City became just second nature to me, I tried a couple of other places out, like Boston and Arizona, which is where I met my lady, but like nothing really felt as foreign because it was still the US. Like everyone still spoke English. All of the products were still the same in the grocery store. And I was like, okay, there are some slight differences. Maybe their accents are a little bit different. Some of the customs are a little bit different, but by and large, it's kind of the same. And so here, like, I have found that alien world once again, because I mean, the language is like impossible for me to learn. I've been trying and I just can't even say some of the sounds that they naturally have in their language. The food is so incredibly different, not with just what they eat, but how they serve it. Like, it's so cool. In America, they have restaurants. If you want to go out to eat, you go to a restaurant. Here, it's less restaurants and more just street food. So like, instead of a cafeteria, all the students from high school or college are just walking out onto the street and getting street food. So it was like everything was just so different. And I felt like a child again. And I had to relearn how to just be in the world, which is a pretty incredible experience at 28 when you think you got it sort of figured out, and then you just shatter your whole perception. I mean, it was freaking awesome.
Well, whenever you're growing up, you know, you do have that experience of the world's new to you. You're kind of free, do what you want, and then after you get out of school, then all of a sudden the real world starts to hit you. Before you know it, you don't remember who you are anymore. It's always I got to be at work, I got to pay the bills, you know. Then if you get married, got to take care of my spouse, got, you know. And then if you have kids, got to take care of kids. And there's just so much going on, you forget how to live life. And if you get to do something like what you've done, and you, I mean, that keeps you young. Really does.
I agree 100%. It's interesting because I'm a big believer in if you're going to do something, if you're going to try something out, you wholeheartedly invest the entirety of your being into it. So that way you'll never look back and say, I actually don't know if I could have done that or if I could have done that. So it's funny because my lady and I, we tried the corporate lifestyle out before we did this move. And we lasted about a year and a half, but we went for it. We tried the corporate lifestyle out because I acted for about 6 years in New York, and you know, it was really going well, but I kind of got a little tired of that lifestyle because it is pretty hectic and chaotic. You know, you're always chasing after that next gig, and it was pretty tiresome. And so eventually I was like, you know what? I got cast in this national tour, and I was like, once I'm done with this, man, I think I'm going to leave the city. And so I tried out my hand at corporate. I got a corporate job. I was working 9 to 5. I had a 401k and benefits, and I knew where my paycheck was coming from every week. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool, because it was so new to me. And then we fell into that sort of routine that most people are living. And I think for a lot of people, they can find happiness in that, but a lot of people can't. And a lot of people are just settling for, this is good enough. This is okay. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And for Steph and I, that wasn't enough. Like, we knew that we weren't going to be able to do this for another 40 years and then decide to live our lives at 65 when the government tells us that we can do so. We just weren't willing to wait for that. And so yeah, we took that leap because we identified that the sort of mundane routine of just going through the motions on a daily basis was going to age us exponentially, and we weren't willing to let that happen.
Well, by the time I was your age, I was already getting a bunch of gray hairs in my head. It's ridiculous. Well, let's see, this is where I screwed up. And I know it's going to sound cliche, but I do not regret having my children. I would do it all over again for them. I love them so much. But I got married when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
Had our first kid at 22. And it was, well, first it was one job after another. I did construction. I was an exterminator for a while. I did all these different things, ended up working for the city, worked in the water department. That's kind of where I stuck, because like I said, you got the benefits, got insurance, the whole 9 yards. Spent, what is considered about half of my life right now. That's what I did, was water department stuff. And all it's gotten me is arthritis and, gray hairs, a receding hairline.
Yeah.
But here's one thing. Whenever I wanted to try to do something different, I either had family or friends that would always say, no, you don't want to lose that security. You got that job and you got all these benefits, and just think about your retirement and everything. So I gave up on my dreams. I tried going back to college, that dropped out. And finally, after I got married the second time, I kept coming up here to Austin. I'm from the Houston area. We come up here to Austin, and it's so beautiful. And the hills, the rivers, the lakes, the animals around here. Just it's so beautiful in this area. And I remember talking to a family member and saying, you know what, I think I'm going to move up there. And I got the look, oh, no, you don't want to move up there. You need to stay right here. Don't do this. Don't do that. You don't want to quit your job, blah, 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 blah. And finally just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do what I want to do this time. So I talked it over with my wife. You want to move up there? Oh, yeah, I'd love to. We planned it out. I ended up getting out part of my retirement to move up here. I don't regret a minute of it. I miss my grandkids, but God bless, it's so beautiful up here.
There's always going to be sacrifices. Like, I'm 8,000 miles away from my family right now. Same with Steffi. And we have to maintain this crazy schedule just to be able to have some connectivity between them, so we can actually get on calls and do that thing, because we're 14 hours ahead of our family. And so that's been a tough part, because we've even talked about that. Like, hey, even if we wanted to move here, well, there's your family back home. So it was also sort of a question of like, what are your values? What are your priorities? Is your environment more important than maintaining an in-person connection with your family? And these were the questions that we were faced with when we were deciding to do this. And these are questions that we still have to face, because our visa allows us to be here for about 6 months to a year. And so we'll reevaluate those questions at sort of towards the end of that. But these are things we're talking about all the time. And and another thing too, just to your point, like I thought it was so interesting because we had a very similar experience when we started to tell people that we were going to move to Thailand, and people began to realize that we were serious, right? Like we bought the tickets, we got renters for our house in Oregon. They were like, "Oh my God, you're not kidding." We were like, "No, I know you think we're kidding. We're not kidding. We're going." And it was so interesting because at that point, when people are faced with your truth, like who you really are and your decision to live a very particular lifestyle, it's fascinating the genuine and authentic reactions that you get from the people that love you, that from the people that say that they care about you. And for Steph and I, we're so blessed because 99% of our friends and family were like, "That's incredible, man. Like you should absolutely go." And we really feel like they would be disappointed if we didn't do this. But there were some people who, and it was actually one of my brothers, like one of my brothers, I got on a phone call with him, a FaceTime, and I told him what we were doing. Oh, dude, he literally said, "Dalt, that is fucking dumb. That is stupid. That's probably going to be the biggest mistake of your life because you're not setting yourself up for the future. And most likely, Steph is probably going to leave you in a year because you're not going to be able to support." I mean, he just went off on me, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And that hit pretty hard. And it was just an interesting experience getting all of these different reactions. But I think at the end of the day, all of these reactions are really just coming from a place of love and trying to protect you, right? Like they don't want to see you mess up. And so, you take it with a grain of salt and you go, "I hear you, man. And I'm sorry that you can only seem to express it in that way, but I know it's coming from a place of love, you dick."
Well, for some, I think it is genuine care, but I think for others, it's they see you doing something that they didn't have the bravery to do themselves, and it's jealousy. It's like, no, I don't want you to achieve because I haven't done that yet.
Mm,
But
that's exactly what Steph says.
you can't help but think that, and what upset me was this one particular person that I told that I was doing this is someone who I thought would be all on board about, back me all the way because they'd been around the world. They'd lived in different countries. They'd lived in different parts of the United States and Canada. And I thought they were going to say, "Yeah, man, you're going to love getting away from Houston." Instead, I got that lecture of, "Oh, no, you need to stay where you're at, blah, 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 blah." Like, we got one life to live. Literally, we have one life to live. And who is on their deathbed saying, "Man, I wished I hadn't gone to Europe," or "I wished I hadn't gone done this"? I mean, who
What it
does
makes me
that?
think about? It's like, have you seen those YouTube videos of there are these videos that are like, we interviewed 100 people on their deathbed or something like that, and we asked all of them what were their biggest regrets in life. All of these people, and they've also done it with I think they're called centenarians or something, people who live to 100 years old. All of these different videos, and the answers are always consistent and the same. And among them is, "I wish I just didn't live in fear. Like, I wish I did this one particular thing." They'll name it and they go, "But I just didn't because I was scared to do it because of either myself, my own insecurities, or I was told by external factors that it just wouldn't work out. And so I just let that fear completely consume me, control the entirety of my life. And then I ended up staying in this small little box. And now at the precipice of death, yeah, that is the one significant thing that sticks out in my mind." And I just wish I said, "Screw it. I'm just going to go, and what happens, happens. And I'm not going to take things too seriously because things will things will work out. I mean, it's okay, right? Like if you live in a mindset of abundance and you just live your truth and you just go for it, like things will naturally unfold for you because you're doing it. But if you decide to live in fear and stay in this box, well, then the opportunities are not going to present themselves to you because you can't even see them. You're just your mindset is closed off. And it's amazing the opportunities that have already arisen just from moving to Thailand, because once you make that move, regardless of where it is, whether you move from one state to another, one country to another, one career path to another, you start to meet people who are similarly minded in the way that, oh yeah, we moved to Thailand as well. And this is the reason why. And there's these creative people and they're entrepreneurs or they're digital nomads and they're making it work. And now you start to make these connections and you're like, oh my God, you thought that this was going to be so hard, but it doesn't have to be. But people are taught to think that being successful is hard. And that doesn't mean that it's going to require a lot of work. It is, but that doesn't mean it has to be hard or painful. I think that's what we're taught in America. To be successful, you have to work 80 hours a week and it's going to suck. And you just can't have a social life or friends, or you have any time for self-care or love.
What kind of life is that? You know? Okay. So every guru, every shaman, every life coach that I've ever talked to, one thing is consistent amongst them, which is live for today. Don't live in the past. Don't worry about what's going to happen in the future. You ain't got there yet. You're basically living it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to like put yourself in that box, okay, so you got your job security and you got all these benefits to what you were saying. You know, it's you're stuck there. You're working all this. You don't have time for anything. That's
Mm-hmm.
no life to have.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you don't people don't stop, like they say, to stop and smell the roses. It's you stop and look at the sunrise, or just look at the sky, and then live in that moment right then and there. And it was difficult for me because I was always used to, you know, being at work and doing all the stuff for everybody else, never really living for myself. And then whenever I got up here, I understood for the first time what that really truly meant, because I would just stop and I would look around the trees, listen to the birds, watch all the little animals scurrying around, you know, see the little fishes swimming in the water, and just enjoy that moment. And then it seems like everything else disappears.
Oh, Kyle, I knew there was a poet in you, my friend. I knew there was a poet in you, my friend. I love that. No, it's true. It's true. And you know, it's funny, man. Like the more you travel and the more you just not even travel, the more you just put yourself out there and you talk to people with different perspectives and you just try new things. It's amazing how expansive that is for the totality of your being, and how much you begin to recognize about how you were brought up, what society, what culture, and it made me think too, like all of these people that are acting as sort of a barrier to what you want to do, the lifestyle that you want to live. You know, I moved to Thailand and things are a little bit slower here. You know, people really are just enjoying their life and it feels a lot less like a rat race here. And it's true. Like, you know, I've also been to Honduras and a couple of other places that maybe have a little less money, right? And it's that classic story of you meet the person in what we would probably call a hut, but the genuine nature of them and the total joy that they embody, like you're envious of that. You go, why are you so happy? You don't have any money. And then you realize you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And
Yep.
and it's just crazy. What I recognized when I started doing these things was that all of these people that were telling me that this was a dumb move or I shouldn't do it, I was like, well, oh my God, these people were brought up in a society that were taught to stay the course, right? You go to high school, you stay the course, you get good grades, you can go to college, you go to college to get the degree, you get the degree to get the 9 to 5 job, you get the 9 to 5 job to work to 65, you work to 65 to get the benefits, you get the benefits, you retire at 65, you die at 70.
I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Oh, wait.
The poet again.
Did you get that? Well, we do all that just to spend our lives worrying about what happened in the past and worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. That is no way to live. I don't want to live the rest of my life that way. It's something whenever you actually truly live in the moment, realize it's you. Whenever you're worrying about all the rest of that stuff, it's like you're not even there. But when you're in the moment, living the moment, at least for me, it's almost as if I'm looking at myself, enjoying the moment. That was kind of an out of the body experience. That's the only way to explain it. But to actually enjoy where you're at and what you're doing, be there. When somebody's talking to you, you're there. You're not worrying about what happened in the past and what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's true communication too. I know when my wife and I go out somewhere, we actually really pay attention to each other. You know what I mean?
I do, man. There's just something to say about like in Thailand, I think about 80% of the total population is Buddhist.
Mhm.
And you feel that. You really do. Like you feel that. It's just everyone seems to be a little bit more at peace. Everyone seems to be really happy. It's called the land of smiles, and it's rightfully earned that name. Like, as an American from New York City, it's funny. Like the first week I was walking around and someone, you're walking just past them and they're like, Sawadee ka, like, and I'm just like, I don't have any money. And they're just like, that's my immediate response. I'm just like, I don't have any money, get away from me. And you just realize that people are just saying hi to say hi. And everyone's living a little bit more slowly. People are meditating out here. People are breathing and just enjoying the sunset. And yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to be learned from not just like the Thai culture, but I think just traveling in general, man. I recommend anyone do it because it's truly just, I think that people need to reset more than they do, because when you think you've got it figured out, that is the time that you need to go and just get in contact with your inner child again. Because I think about like when everyone's a kid, you're just walking around like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everything is brand new. Everything's amazing. And then as you grow older, things become familiar. You know everything, and nothing is wondrous anymore. Nothing is bewildering you. You're just like, yeah, I've seen this, I've seen that, whatever. Let me pay my bills. And it's sad because that childlike wonder is still in every single person. It's just you're not accessing it. So I had that realization when I was walking down Chiang Mai, one of the streets in Chiang Mai. I caught myself doing that. Like I was literally going like, and I realized how probably stupid I looked. But then I just recognized like how rare of an experience that was. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've felt that way since I was like 6. And
Wow.
it was it makes you remember what is valuable beyond finances and status and and I think it's really easy to fall into that mindset, particularly where I grew up, the US. So I love the US. There's a lot of conveniences about it, but there's definitely some systematic issues in my opinion. And I think traveling can make you quite aware of those things.
Well, I went to New York a couple of years ago. I'd never been. I was there and I enjoyed looking at everything. But one thing that I didn't like, which was so much different than where I'm at here in Texas, is only time anybody wanted to interact with you is if it had to do with money. Either they were asking you for money or wanting you to buy something.
Yep, that sums it up, my friend. And the skyscrapers, it's just gray. It blocks. You can't even see the sun. I mean, it's wild. Like, I moved to Arizona after New York City, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, there's so much sky. Like, the sky was just so vast. And I was like, why do I feel like I'm just seeing this for the first time? And I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, New York City has skyscrapers. You don't see this. You don't see the sunsets. You don't see any of that stuff. So there's a poet in me too, my friend. And yeah.
I enjoyed my visit, but it's out of my system. I don't have to go back again. Put it that way.
Yeah. Go for it. I mean, that's the greatest thing though, was like, there's so much to be learned from every single environment. And I've known people who have lived in New York City for 30 years and they wouldn't change it for the world. Right. You just have to sort of find that vibrational space that really resonates with you. And I say move around and go for it. But I do think a lot of people are really scared to do it. And there's this really great quote. I can't exactly remember who says it, but it's from a book called The Book of Nonconformity. And I might not get it word for word, but it's something like, people generally resist change until the pain of making a switch outweighs the pain of their current situation. And I know that I have been there so many times because, it's like, why would I want to find a new job that's so much effort and so much work? Meanwhile, people are spending 20 years in a job that they absolutely hate. And that is not just affecting them, that's affecting their relationship, that's affecting the time that they have with their kids. I mean, it's affecting everything. There's a rippling effect to every single decision that you make, and people are constantly settling for just okay, because it's easier to just be okay than to go through all of the hurdles to feel great. And we're so practiced in numbing ourselves that I don't think people even know what it means to feel great anymore, to feel alive. And I just, you got to spike that. You got to awaken that in you.
Well, like they say, no pain, no gain. I mean, you want to build your body up, you're going to go through some pain, but you'll notice the changes and you'll enjoy the changes, and it's beneficial to you. It ain't no different with that. I mean, you go out and you do something different in your life, you take a chance, you might have to go through a painful period, but then eventually, what are the benefits? How's it going to make you feel? If I was still living in Houston, I'd probably be in an insane asylum right now. Seriously. I come up here and I can get away. Now, for me, the life that I really, really want, I want to live out in the country. I want to have, my vegetable gardens and cows and chickens and goats and, and all that. And some people are like, oh, well, you're going to be out there and you're not going to like it and you're going to be far away from this and this. That's exactly why I want to go out there, because I want to be away from all that. I want to go out there. You know what? I started a vegetable garden in my backyard, and I go out there every day and I get so excited when I see something growing on the plant, and something is grown from me throwing a few seeds in the ground. And then plus we pick it and we actually eat it. It's right there at my convenience. I thought if we could just grow all of our vegetables this way, instead of having to go to the grocery store to get everything,
Mm-hmm.
why not?
Oh
And
yeah, we are so
it's peaceful. I feel like I'm closer to God when I'm in my garden.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe that's what people fear, right? I mean, people seem to want the disconnect, or at least on the surface, people seem to want the disconnect. I mean, it's true what they say, people are forgetting how to talk to people. It's like, well, yeah, it's because social media runs our lives. But
That's right.
like we are so disconnected from practically everything, and we're so trained in numbing ourselves. And it's like, how can you practically how can you possibly get in tune with your emotions when we're taught from a young age? It's like, when you have a headache, what do? Take some ibuprofen, get rid of that feeling, right? It's like you're just constantly numbing yourself, whether it's ibuprofen, oh, you're bored, go watch some TV, go numb that feeling away too. And so there's no teaching in how to connect with yourself. There's no teaching for when you start to feel anxiety about your current situation with your life. When you start to feel like something's wrong, no one knows how to deal with that, because we've never been taught that, because we've been numbing ourselves for our whole life. And it's like you said, no pain, no gain. But no one wants to be in pain because we're not used to it. And
Mhm.
I think that there is a certain level of discomfort that acts as a catalyst to growing, and you need to force yourself into that to reach a place of joy and fulfillment and happiness. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to go down this path of this continual numbing, and you'll never be able to understand what's missing. And it's all about risk taking. I think you just take the risks, you do it in a mindful and smart way, but you don't let fear conquer your decisions. And just know that there's no right or wrong answer. You can just do things, and it's going to be okay.
So, yeah. When you gamble and you roll that dice, you don't know what it's going to land on. It might make you, it might break you, but at least take that chance. When I was married the first time and raising the kids, working all the time, and then whenever I wasn't working and it was relaxation time, I numbed myself with alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and I missed out on my kids growing up, spending really quality time with them. And now I think I'm trying to make up for it through my grandkids, especially my grandson that lives with us now. I spend a lot of time with him, and we play, and all that. We'll watch his little shows together, and he likes to help me out in the yard, and we spend all that time together. And then I watch him, and it makes me sad because I miss that, doing that with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not careful, those days are gone and you'll never get them back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, pain and anxiety and discomfort are are shitty. Right? They're shitty.
Yeah.
They're shitty. And I understand why people don't want to go through them, but it just reminds me of something that I used to do, and I don't tell this story that much because it was a painful experience when I look back on it and I go, man, what an odd cycle that I was in, but it really highlights how much I was hurting. And it was now and it was when I was living in New York City, and for me, New York really kind of numbed me. It really made me into a pretty emotionally devoid individual, pretty practiced in telling people to fuck off, and it was a tougher part of my life, even though I had some great times. And I went through this cycle of, I was having a really hard time being in romantic relationships, really authentically connecting with people on a very genuine level. I was always faking it and putting on a mask and just bullshitting my way through all of my interactions throughout the day. And it just wasn't real. And I started doing this thing for about a year where I would buy myself a bottle of alcohol. I would run a hot bath. I would get piss drunk by myself. And I would just go and cry in the bathtub. And I would just do this. And it felt really good. Like, it felt really good. Not the healthiest routine, but I realized that I was doing that so that I could feel something, because obviously the alcohol was some sort of gateway to me accessing all of the pain that was going on internally that I was just shoveling down on a daily basis. And I think about all of the people who are maybe not doing exactly that, but who are going through these extremes just to feel something. And it makes me really sad, man. I think that again, there's a lot to say about the disconnect that's happening in the world right now. And I'm a huge advocate for I think just reconnecting with who you are and taking these self journeys and doing what people might regard as crazy or regard as extreme, like moving to a different country, or even just taking a 1-month trip solo to a different country. Do something to get in touch with yourself again, because it's quite easy to lose that as you grow older and jump into those 9 to 5 routines, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what, my first wife walking out on me, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's not getting away from her so much as it made me start to realize who I was again. I lived by myself. I remembered all the things that I really enjoyed in life. And I'm talking about things that I can enjoy without alcohol and drugs. You know?
Yeah.
And then once you finally discover who you are and you say, I'm going to stay true to myself, and then that next person that you get into a serious relationship with, they really know who you are. I think that the first relationship, you're faking it. You're faking it for too long. And now you're forcing someone and you're saying, hey, this is who I am. Accept me for who I am. I'm not going back to where I was before. And talking about taking chances, if people didn't take chances, we wouldn't be living in places like California. We wouldn't be living here in the United States. If you think about it. Yeah. Take a chance. I mean, we wouldn't have cell phones if people didn't take a chance. We wouldn't have television if somebody didn't take a chance. We wouldn't have all the medical stuff that we have if people didn't take a chance. You know, we wouldn't have medicine. There's so many things. If we played it safe, we would be living a boring life right now, with nothing to do.
There's that beautifully simplistic quote that's like, the people who think they are crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do it. And it's just funny to me that I think about all of these incredibly epic inventions that people have come up with, and they were faced with an immense amount of adversity, just saying, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. It won't ever work. You shouldn't do it. And that was actually the airplane. I mean, the airplane was faced with, they're like, what do you mean you want people to fly like birds? Shut up. That's just dumb. Stop that. Well, it's the same thing when you look at all of the internal work. It's like when you apply that same concept to your lifestyle, it's like inventing a new lifestyle, and people are going to say the exact same thing. People are going to say, that's dumb. You shouldn't do that. Just like they did with the airplane or the light bulb, right? People were like, that's dumb too. That's magic. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's true. You really need to be in relationship with yourself before you can be in relationship with anyone else. And so I think that whatever process you have to do to get in relationship with yourself first, and don't let, I mean, there's plenty to be said about the wisdom of elders, and you should, of course, lean on the opinions of your parents and your friends and your family, but you don't take them as 100% truth, because I've learned in my life that, my dad is an extremely wise man and I have learned so much from him, but he's been wrong. He's been wrong several times and in my life. And I've learned that, and I'll talk to him about that. And I'll just say, hey, it took me 2 years to figure it out, but it turns out, Pop, you're wrong. And I was right. And I knew that, but I was swayed by you. I was swayed by my brothers to believe this thing. So everyone's on their own self journey. And I know not everyone, but a lot of people right now are in a lot of pain and trying to figure out, because the world is in such a strange place right now. And people are trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do and what lifestyle they want to live, especially with so much variety nowadays. You can do so much. And people are really not, a lot of people aren't adhering to the 9 to 5 work world. Well, you don't have to live that lifestyle.
Right.
And I have to say too that, I am speaking from a place of privilege as well. It's like when Steph and I were making this decision, people said to us, a lot of them, which we thought was a really funny comment. They were like, well, what if you don't like it? And I was like, then we come back.
Right.
Then we come back. And I have to recognize that, Steph and I do come from 2 very loving and supportive middle-class families. And yeah, if this was a total shit show, we could come back and we could, just go back and live with our parents, and that would be fine. We also bought a house a couple of years ago. Like, we're in a place that set us up to do this, and we have that extra layer of confidence. And so I know some people, they feel really helpless because they're like, Dalton, how can I possibly do that when I have 3 kids, right? I have to support them. And to that I say, well, then it's not about moving to Thailand, right? That's not what it's about, but it's about finding these small incremental steps that you can change up in your life to start bringing in variety.
Mhm.
It just makes me think about, like, for Steph and I, before we did this big move, before this, we were like, dude, we can have fun in our lives without making these huge trips, right? Like it's about the little moments, like dancing when we're brushing our teeth, doing something stupid, just acting like a kid again. And I gotta tell you, that stuff helped. People think that's just dumb, but it helped.
You don't have to jump into it without making a plan. I mean, I'm not telling you, don't go run across the other side of the world tomorrow. I mean, you might have to plan it out for, I don't know, a couple of years or something. Sacrifice going out to eat every night, put that money away, or you don't have to have every cable channel that's on the television. You don't have to have the latest fashion every time it comes out. There are so many things you can do to save money, and maybe you have to wait till the kids grow up and out of the house. Maybe you figure it out, but take a chance. How many people in my life that have passed away over the last few years, and the older that I get, the more people are passing away.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, if they knew it was their time to go, they were probably thinking, gosh, I wished I had done more.
I heard about that. Maybe you did too. I heard about that just terrible story. That was a big wake up call, I think, for a lot of people. But it was like this guy, I think your generation or so, maybe actually probably my dad's generation. And he worked the 45 years at the same place, 9 to 5 job, didn't really like it, but he did it, put his head down and just grinded it. And then the day of his retirement, he retired, had a heart attack. The day that he retired, he had a heart attack and died. And it was a big wake up call. It was just one of those like terribly epic stories that were like, don't wait. You don't have to wait. And I was laughing because when you were like, there's so many ways to save money. Like people have this idea in their mind that in order to do something like this, you really need to save up a lot of money, but you don't. And if you think that you do, that's okay. Like I think I had about $5,000 total to my name when Steph and I decided to do this. And I was like, well, I think I would feel more comfortable if I had double that. So if you really want to do this, it's like, I remember I calculated how much a peanut butter and honey sandwich would cost me. So I went to Trader Joe's. I got a bag of, it was like 24 slices of Trader Joe's whole wheat bread. It was like $2.79. I bought a thing of peanut butter for like $3.69, and then some honey for like, I don't know, like $12. And then I divided it all out, and I measured out how much honey I would put on a piece of sandwich, and it ended up a peanut butter and honey sandwich costing me about like 72 cents. And I ate that thing for like 4 months straight. And I was so fucking tired of peanut butter and honeys after 4 months. But I'm going to tell you right now, man, my bank account ballooned so fast. And in a matter of just a couple of months, I had it and I was ready to rock. And so I think it's number one, like the first step is identifying that something is missing, having the willingness to just explore and be a little scared. I think being scared and having some anxiety is natural, and that should be the natural force that pushes you. If it's a little scary, that's the exact reason why you should do it. And then number three is just commit to it. Commit to the process. It might suck for a little bit, but the outcome is amazing because it's worth it when you put all of this effort, time, and energy into actually making it happen.
Well, in the end, you have to weigh out, what do you want more? You know, do you want those Starbucks coffees every day, or do you want to go to Thailand, or
Right.
you know,
Right.
so what, you have to sacrifice a little bit. Eventually you can go out and you can get it again later on. You know, you don't have to have it every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We're trained to consume, my friend.
that's right. I mean, I was used to getting energy drink every morning. I felt like I had to have an energy drink before I got started doing my day. I don't have to. Just like with the vegetables, you know how much it costs at the grocery store for some of those vegetables I got out there? And all I got to do is go out and pick it off the vine. Didn't even cost me $2 to plant this plant. And look what uh, look how much I'm saving by having it right there at my convenience in the backyard.
Well, hey, and guess what, man? If you getting to Thailand is like by far the most expensive part. And I keep talking about Thailand just because that's where I live. But Asia in general, I mean, listen, like getting here is the most expensive part. Like, okay, yeah, the plane ticket's going to cost you $500-600, and of course, there's visas and all of these different details that you're going to have to take care of. But on average, so in Thailand, there's not really kitchens. Like if you were to see my kitchen in this apartment, it's like it's just so pathetic. I mean, and there's no ovens. It's really rare to find like a full-size fridge. So there's not really much cooking to be done here because the culture is you go out to food carts and that's where you eat. And so I was really excited to try that out because in America, if you go out 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at a restaurant, 7 days a week, my friend, you're broke. And or you're a millionaire and you could do that. But most people can't do that, so they cook. Here, I've never been able to eat out 3 times a day, 7 days a week. And on average, for food, probably cost me about $10 a day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all eating out at a restaurant.
It costs you more than that at one meal here, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, you for $10 you can get a decent meal at McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like a decent one. Like I can't even get the Big Mac and the McChicken. Like it's just one or the other or something. It's just it's wild to me. You know, it's like coffee is 70 cents here. It's just this beautiful thing. So, you know, I do want people to understand that although you are trained from like day one to live a very particular mindset, the moment that you're incorporated in most schools, you're basically beginning the training of learning to be part of the overall system that the government has deployed. Of course, they want outstanding citizens that do the 9 to 5 job that serves them the most. And a lot of people can find contentment and happiness in that lifestyle. And if you can, that's freaking awesome. But for the people who feel like are really missing something, like, just know that there are unconventional, I don't even like to call it that because it has like this negative air to it, but there are a variety of different lifestyles that you can live that might make you feel a little alive, and people just don't think about it because it's not the norm, and you might get a little flack for it, and it's a little scary and whatever. But I'm telling you right now, as a guy who's doing it, it's awesome, and it's really rewarding, and it's fun. So
I'd say take a chance in life. The things that I've gotten to do since I met my wife that I have now, Michelle. I mean, she's the one that's helped me to get back on my spiritual journey after I pretty much separated from God and was mad at everyone in the world and at him. I get back on track. I get to go to New York, and I went to Ohio and Tennessee and all these different places I'd never been before in my life, and had so much fun doing it. And you get a joy of saying, oh man, I got to go see this. And like in Tennessee, we walked out of the Walmart, and right in front of you is a mountain. I mean, literally a mountain as soon as you walk out the door. And, I don't get so much of a joy of saying, man, I went and I had to fix this pipe, and I had to put the sleeve on it and then just tighten it up, and I cut my hand on this. And there's no real joy in that. The joy is, look what I've got to see, look what I've got to do. And now that I'm starting to do what I want to do in life, I'm meeting so many wonderful people and making so many new wonderful friends. My circle has changed so much, and my life is just getting better. When I have people that send me messages, and like yesterday, telling me happy birthday, or saying thank you for bringing this guest on because they really changed my life, or that's true joy.
Well, it was like seeing that mountain for you was like reliving that childlike wonder, like that I was talking about earlier, right? Like you see that mountain, your jaw drops a little bit, and you're like, wow, now it's wild. And we're so glued to our heads are always down now, glued to our phones, and we miss the wonder that is nature. And it's hard to disconnect. So yeah, no, that's so cool, man, that you're on that journey again, and re-experiencing those things. I love seeing adults with their jaws open, looking like kids again, because I think that's what keeps people young, and I think that's what keeps people in love with life, in love with life. And I just don't think a lot of people even know what that feels like anymore. And maybe it is the poet in us, Kyle. maybe it's the poet, my friend, but maybe not. I think it lives in all of us.
Our plan is that we're wanting to eventually sell everything that we have, and we're just going to get an RV and just travel the United States in the RV. I love history, and there's a lot of places that I really want to go see that are part of that history. And I mean, it's either that or you lay around here and you just what was it? You either get busy living or you get busy dying.
I am, yeah. They say, what is it? It's like the moment you stop moving, you start dying, something like that. It's great, man. My dad wants to do the exact same thing. He's 2 years away from retirement. He's 63. He's just waiting. He's going to do the exact same thing, buy that RV and just cruise. That's what my grandpa did. That's what my great grandpa did. I feel like it's the ultimate retiree plan. Like, take your house and put it on wheels.
Can you imagine how much more this podcast can be if I'm on the road and I get to talk about where I'm at and what I'm doing. It'd be amazing.
I would love to see the background change every time too. Like do the podcast with the mountains in the back of you. Like show people what you're talking about when we're talking about that childlike wonder. You don't have to explain it. You can just show them. It's amazing.
Michelle, she's might got her fingers crossed. She might get this other job, and if she does, well, then she's going to be able to work remotely, so we won't have to stay here all the time. And we're talking about going to her aunt's house in Tennessee, and then she goes, "You can sit out on the back patio and have that beautiful background with the mountains and everything, and do your podcast." I'm like, that would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be so cool, my friend. Is that you're planning on just doing the podcast? Because the podcast is great, man. I mean, you're planning on just doing the podcast and keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
I love it.
I think that's part of why I'm here, is that God has given me something to do, and it's to get a message out to everyone and inspire people and give them some kind of hope. That all you get on social media and everything else is negativity. It's trying to divide us, trying to make us all hate each other. I'm sick of that. I think it's time we start building on coming together,
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to be able to do that unless somebody puts forth that effort. And if I'm even a small fraction of that, I mean, just like a drop of water, if it's going to fill up that cup in the sink, it's going to spill over. Well, if I'm at least one of those drops, then I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I think that more people are waking up. I really do. I think that what's portrayed is not necessarily true, and I think that human beings really do like to hone in on the car wreck. But I don't think that's the highlight. I think what's really going on underneath that is a lot of positivity, a lot of awakening, and I don't think that's getting as much credit because it's not as interesting for the news and stuff to talk about all of the beauty, all of the right. They don't want to be poets. They just want the carnage because that's what gets the views. But I think people are waking up, and it's a beautiful thing. And it's podcasts like this, and it's all the podcasters in general that are just pumping out all of this free content. Like we were talking about, I was just listening to Russell Brand's podcast where he had Gabor Mate on, who is the leading doctor with trauma. And like to hear Gabor Mate talk is like $2,000, but here he is. He has an hour and 20-minute podcast with Russell Brand talking about trauma, and it's completely free.
I like Russell
awesome.
Brand.
I love Russell. Yeah, I love Russell. So I just think it's always wild, man. Wild. Talks faster than I think you and I combined, but yeah, dude's wild.
It's so awesome. He got his life together. And that's what I want to be a part of, is helping people get their lives together. Because I was an alcoholic, I was a drug addict, I drank so much and didn't take care of myself that I had a heart attack at age 36.
Wow.
I almost lost my family completely because I was so self-centered, and all I cared about was getting drunk, getting high, and now I've got a second chance. I'm taking advantage of it. If I got a second chance, I want everybody else out there to know you have a second chance as well. So don't give up. Keep that hope.
And it's never too late. I mean, I know that's such a cliche, but from what I've learned, and again, I'm just a 28-year-old naive boy, but from my experience, it really is never too late. From what I've seen with my dad, who's gone through so much at 63 years old, it's never too late. You just if you want to make a change, you just make it happen, and you don't let your age be an excuse as to the reason why you don't make things happen. Because I think at the end of the day, when you just say, "Oh, it's too late," I think that's just an excuse. I think that's just your fear and your anxiety and your own self-doubt that's taking advantage and coming up, and your ego is getting in the way. And I think that's just an excuse. So excuses are an easy way to be unhappy. And you just have to persevere, and you have to triumph. And I hope that if someone's listening to this conversation and they are feeling drawn to make a change, to do something else. And again, it doesn't have to be moving to a different country, man. It can be, I've met so many people that are living lives where they hate their job. They just hate it. But for some reason, for reasons they can't even tell me, they just stay, right? Or they live in a town that they don't like. I mean, it's fascinating to have the conversations with so many people who are unhappy, but they keep finding ways to maintain that unhealthy lifestyle, and it's just out of fear and self-doubt. And I just want people to know that they don't have to live that life, and so.
I mean, for me, it was just moving a few hours away from where I grew up. It's the beauty, it's the whole different atmosphere, and quite honestly, it has opened up doors for me that I don't think I'd ever seen if I'd have stayed where I was at. But now, what's the name of your podcast?
Our podcast is Life with Steph and Dalt, and that's also our Instagram as well. So everything is just Life with Steph and Dalt, and we primarily just talk about our relationship and all of the beauty and bullshit that comes with it. We really don't shy away from anything. I mean, there's some really fun and light stuff on there, just some absolutely heart-wrenching stuff, really diving into the nitty-gritty of our despair, if you will. But again, the positivity and the lessons learned from those things. So if you want to check it out, it's all about relationship and perseverance, essentially, with some light sprinkling of travel as well. So yeah.
Do y'all have a website?
We don't. In fact, Steph literally just left her job fully left her job about 2 weeks ago to be a Life with Steph and Dalt full-time employee along with me. I haven't worked my job in about 5-6 months. But we're getting that stuff up. So right now we're just on Apple, Spotify, Instagram, all that jazz.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I think we should definitely stay in touch because I want to hear some more of y'all's adventures.
I know we didn't quite jump into them, but man, we've got some wild rides already. But yeah, man, happy to come back on and chat about something else. And I just appreciate the invite, and
of course,
just the open candor. I hope that this helps somebody in some small way, because that's the ultimate currency, right?
That's right. Well, all you folks out there, I want you to remember something. When you want to get your life back on track, you're responsible for your life and only yours, and you're not responsible for how other people react. So you just do what you're supposed to do. If you are like me, you had to get away from substance abuse, you want to get back with your family, you do whatever it takes. Sometimes it takes a while before somebody forgives you. The hurt runs deep. And so, but you just keep doing what you're supposed to do. Let God take care of the rest. Let the universe do whatever it's supposed to do. Let karma do what it's supposed to do. And these things are not in your hands. You just do what you're supposed to do. And I want to thank you for stopping by here. If this was your first time, I hope you'll come back. Please subscribe. And for those of you who are regular to the show, well, thank you, because it's because of you I get to do this. Until the next one, everyone, take care. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network